It didn't start today. Something had already begun, quietly, almost unnoticed, moving through the world in ways no one could fully explain. At first, it felt like nothing more than a passing moment, like a strange pause in the middle of ordinary life. But those who felt it could not ignore it completely. Something was different. Something had shifted. And yet the world continued as if nothing had changed. The morning unfolded like every other. The sky painted itself in soft light, and the rhythm of life carried on. Cars moving, people rushing, voices blending into the background noise of another day. No one stopped. No one questioned. No one looked up long enough to notice that something eternal had stepped into time once again, not with power meant to overwhelm, but with a presence meant to be felt. He walked among them, not as someone distant, not as someone unreachable, but as someone near, closer than anyone would expect. There were no signs in the sky, no voices calling out his name, no moment that forced belief. Instead, there was silence, a quiet kind of presence that didn't demand attention, yet somehow held it. And those who crossed his path would not always understand what they felt, but they would remember it. Some had already felt it before, in small moments they couldn't explain. A sudden calm in the middle of anxiety, and a thought that didn't feel like their own. A pull towards something deeper, something they had long ignored. They tried to move on from it, to explain it away, to call it coincidence, but now it was happening again. Maybe. He sat beside someone in a crowded place, watching without speaking as they carried the weight of their thoughts alone. Maybe he walked past someone who had long given up on believing in anything beyond what they could see. And for just a moment, something inside them shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to be noticed. Enough to be remembered. Because if Jesus returned today, it would not begin with the world changing all at once. It would begin with something far more subtle and far more powerful. It would begin within people in the quiet places, in the unseen decisions, in the moments no one else witnesses. A person choosing to forgive when everything in them says not to. A heart softening after years of being closed. A thought appearing in the middle of chaos that brings unexpected peace. These would be the first signs, but not everyone would accept it. Some would feel something and become curious, drawn toward it without knowing why. Others would feel the same thing and become uncomfortable, resisting it, pushing it away because it asked something of them they were not ready to give. And many would feel nothing at all, not because it wasn't there, but because they had learned how to ignore anything that did not fit within what they already believed. And still, he would not force himself into their lives. He would remain present, steady, patient, moving through moments, through conversations, through silence, not trying to prove anything, but revealing everything to those willing to see. And somewhere, someone would begin to realize it. Not all at once, not with certainty, but slowly. Like a thought that keeps returning, like a feeling that refuses to disappear. They would start to question the moments they once ignored, the peace they couldn't explain, the presence they tried to forget. And the question would begin to form within them. What if this is real? What if those moments were not random? What if that peace came from somewhere beyond themselves? What if the presence they felt was not imagined? And with that question, everything would begin to change, because recognizing him would not happen through evidence or explanation. It would happen through awareness, through the willingness to stop, to feel, to listen, even when the world continues to rush past. And maybe, just maybe, you have already felt something like this. And a moment when everything inside you became still, even while everything around you kept moving. A peace that didn't belong to your circumstances. A quiet presence that felt closer than your own thoughts. You didn't understand it. You couldn't explain it. But you felt it. And maybe that feeling has followed you since. Maybe it appears when you least expect it. Maybe it comes back in silence. Maybe it's here. Even now, because this was never about a moment that would be seen by everyone at the same time. It was always about something more personal, more intimate, more real. And as the world continues to move forward, unaware, the question remains, waiting quietly for those willing to face it. Not loudly, not urgently, but patiently. Would you recognize him if he was already here?